Hey everyone, it's Olivia here, aka Story Minded, and I just wanted to make another video. This time I know I'm really late to this tag, like God knows how many years late. So this is the Disney Heroine book tag that was created by Heartful of Books, Maddie and B. And that was their tag of 2014, and I stumbled across it on YouTube, and I was like, I love it, I need to use it. And because I'm just feeling particularly lazy today, sorry, I just noticed that the random Easter bag that I could see in the camera through my cupboard. I'm not going to get all the books out, and I haven't written down the authors' names, which is very bad of me, but I'll try my best to remember them. Some of these books are from quite a few years ago, so I probably won't. I could always quickly look them up, but still. So the first one is Snow White, and it's a book you wished for. So in my last sort of book recommendation video that I'm currently uploading now, a book I wished for was Lyrebird by Cecilia Ahern. It was one of my books I asked for Christmas. And I also got The Marble Collector, the other one of hers. And like I said, I've been disappointed with parts of it so far, which is such a shame. I think the concept, I love the character of Laura, her gift that she has with sound, and I find that really intriguing. But there's moments where Cecilia's writing I find it a bit too, it's over explaining and over telling, in the sense that she'll have a beautiful bit of dialogue and it's I know this just from the dialogue, I can tell what this character feels and their emotion behind it, but then she'll add little bits after it, and I'm like, oh, but you didn't need to tell us that. As a reader, I picked that out just from your dialogue. It was all that extra information after the speech tags and stuff, and it's yeah, I get it, I can understand what's going on. And then there's other bits where it's a bit I don't know if I'm finding this realistic or not. Not in the sense of Laura's talent, I find that really unique and interesting, but there's just parts where I'm like, is this really what would happen in this situation? Stuff like that, but still, I'm still going to give it a go. Okay, next one is Cinderella. A book you worked for. I'm going to say Captain Corelli's Mandolin by, if I can remember off the top of my head, Louis Bernard. I can't pronounce his surname. Captain Corelli's Mandolin. It was a book I studied for AS level. It has 74-ish, over 70 chapters, and I worked for that book. There were chapters that I didn't even believe needed to have existed. There was a lot of political stuff that obviously my wonderful AS student self didn't really think, oh yeah, I should actually research this and be a proper bloomin' literature student. I worked really hard at college, by the way. I did work hard, but it's amazing when you finally get past that stage in your life and you look back and you're like, there's so much more I could have done. Why didn't I do it? Because I was studying everything else as well. But yeah, I really enjoyed the richness of the characters. Was one of my favourite parts of Captain Corelli's Mandolin. And Carlo is forever in my heart. I love that character so much. And Pipsipsina, I can't pronounce any of the Greek names, but Pipsipsina, the little pie martin, it was just brilliant. But yeah, I worked for it, and the ending did not satisfy me. So I worked hard for that book, and the ending really peed me off. But I'm not going to go into that now, because that's a whole other rant. Aurora, a book that you consider a hidden gem, I found in Chichester, in this wonderful second-hand bookshop called Kim's Bookshop. The complete works of Oscar Wilde, with an introduction written by his son, Sybil. It is amazing. I haven't read it yet, but it's got all his complete works, and I'm very excited. Belle, a book you'll defend. Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. That was a book when I was working at college. That's what the students were studying there, and it's a really good book. It's a really good novel, but it's very subtle, and I think a lot of people don't appreciate it. They think it's quite slow paced and boring or detached, and I mean that's sort of the whole idea because it's about clones and it's sort of to represent the fact that they aren't human. But I really enjoyed that book. Ariel, A Book You Treasure, The Book Thief, because that's the sort of, that was the first sort of novel that I read in a long time where I thought this is what I want to do with my life if I'm fortunate enough to become published. This is the kind of impact I want to have, and this is the, it was just a really beautiful story, and I love it. One of my favourites. Jasmine, a new book. At the time when I was thinking of these answers, To the Lighthouse, which was the last sort of book recommendation video I did, To the Lighthouse was the new book. So Mulan, A Book That Changed You. I've put The 5 People You Meet in Heaven, and I can't remember, I always get his surname wrong. I want to say, I think it's David Mitchell. And I think that rather than changing me, it was just a book that really sort of reaffirmed to myself that I love stories that use simplistic but beautiful prose and writing, and it was just really well written. It was a simple story, but it was really beautiful and powerful. So that's one that I really enjoyed, and I want to produce more writing like that myself. Pocahontas, book recommendation. The Man Who Listens to Horses by Monty Roberts. If any of you love horses, or if any of you have an interest in non-fiction, Monty Roberts is a really interesting man, and I love that's his non-fiction book, so I highly recommend it. Tiana, A Book You Weren't Expecting to Like. Going back to AS level literature, Brighton Rock. When I first read it, it really didn't do much for me. Like, I thought it was very slow, and it's all about like the mobs in, oh god, I can't even think of the timeline of it now. Was it 1950s or earlier? I can't remember the timeline now, but I was sort of like, not really doing much for me. But when I actually started to analyse the language of Graham Greene's Brighton Rock, it was actually really good, and I ended up really enjoying it. Anna, A Book You're Excited For. Oh, it's like a book release you're excited for. And I'm sort of changing this answer now, but the first one is Daughter of the House. I think her name, what is her name? It's not Rosie Harris. Or Rose Harris. It's not Rosie Harris. I can't remember, but there's this female author who wrote The Illusionists, which was really cool. It's like a historical fiction novel, but it's about magicians and stuff. It's really cool. And there's a follow-up, but it was really expensive, so I haven't got it yet. And it's called Daughter of the House, so I'm waiting for it to come out in like paperback, so it'll be cheaper. It probably already is, but that was one that I was really excited for, because I was like, oh my god, there's a sequel, I need to get it. And I'm rarely like that, but I was like, there's a sequel, I have to. This video is going to be really long, I apologise. But I'm also now saying Marcus Zuzak, who wrote The Book Thief. I've just found out 10 years since he's written The Book Thief. He is bringing, I think it's about 10 years. Anyway, he is bringing out another novel, and I'm so excited and I'm so happy. And I was like, oh my god, I almost bought myself like a signed copy of it, but I was like, no, I'm not going to, I'm going to wait. And I think it's called The Book of Dust. The Book of Dust, I think. Or it's something to do with dust. Or clay, I can't remember now, but I was just so excited. I was like, oh my god, I need to get it. So that is a book I'm really excited for. Elsa, Guilty Pleasure. And I've put any Michael Morpurgo or Jacqueline Wilson book, because growing up they were my favourite authors from my childhood, and I really should buy more of their books again to just rekindle that love. And also, if I ever want to try and explore children's writing, although I don't know how they do it because it's so hard, they're like amazing. They're going to be my go-to authors to seek inspiration from. Oh no, how do I pronounce this name? Ilan, I can't think of it. I know she's from the Black Cauldron, but I can't. Ilonwe. That's my poor attempt at pronouncing her name. An obscure book, bedtime stories for adults, and I think it's like a collection. It was one of my leaving gifts when I left working at college, and they were like, here, and I was like, oh, thank you so much. It was either a leaving gift or it was a birthday present, one of those two, but I'm excited for that one. Rapunzel, A Book You'll Reread, Warrior. this is another non-fiction book, and it's about, I can't remember his name, I'm really bad with names and stuff, I'm sorry. It was an amazing book about this man who survived during the First World War with his horse Warrior, and literally they both survived the entire span of the war together, and they go on to live, like, I think Warrior lives until he's like 30 years old or something, and it was just beautiful. It was really good. I definitely need to reread it again. It's a really lovely story. Merida, A Book That Inspires You, The Forgetting Time by Sharon Guskin, I think is her name, if I can recall it off the top of my head. A contemporary novel, and I quite like a bit of contemporary, but it's done in a really different way, and it was just one of those stories that you just don't want to put down, and you're like hooked, and I'm like, this is how a book should be written. I wish I could write like this. Meg, a forgotten book. Kathy Cassidy. I just put the author's name. I used to read a lot of Kathy Cassidy when I was younger, and I loved her books as well, but I can't. I used to love them so much, and I just, like, was it The Sunday Girls, Dizzy, Indigo Blue, like there were so many different of her books, Second Chance, Lucky Stop, something like that. There were so many of her books that I loved, but I just can't remember any of them now because time. Jane, a classic book, so I've put Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, and that was one that, along with Never Let Me Go, is one I discovered when I worked at my old college. I've really enjoyed it. Kida? Oh, that's from, is that from Atlantis? I'm sorry, that's one of the Disney films that I've not actually really seen. A Book You Hunted Down. Oh yeah, I just put this one because I haven't really hunted down a book, but Poems of Robert Browning, 1833 to 1865. It was one that I found at a different second-hand bookshop, which I thought was quite a good find. Esmeralda, book with a good message, Not Without My Sister. That's another non-fiction book. It is it's amazing in the sense, like, how much these three sisters go through and how much they endured and that they escaped a cult. I highly recommend it. Wendy Lilo? Yeah, Lilo. I was about to say, oh my gosh, Lilo and Stitch. I was about to say Lilo and Alice, a middle grade book. I put Born to Run, which is by Michael Morpurgo. It destroyed my heart as a child, but I loved it. Such a powerful story about this beautiful greyhound dog, and who I love. Greyhound? Either he's a greyhound or he's a whippet. He's a really fast dog, and he's just amazing, and it's really sad, and it's like all the different lives he lives, and I just love it. And finally, Giselle, book with a happy ending. This is another non-fiction book. It's called Out of the Dark, and I can't remember their co-authors, but she wrote the book about her, she had a lot of bad experiences she had a repressed memory from her childhood, and it's about, it's written by her and her psychiatrist who helped her overcome all these repressed memories to uncover the truth, and it has a really happy ending because she fully recovers and everything, but it is very, very sad and very dark. But it was a really interesting book to read. Anyway, that's just a book tag I wanted to do. I really need to find more tags for this year. And I'm sorry that I was too lazy to get out the books to show you, but just in one of those moods. Anyway, if anyone's watched this, thank you, and I hope to do more tags soon. Bye.